Anybody who still believes that this is about Hamas is stupid, because they...
I don't agree with that.
Really?
No, because...
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What is going on, brothers and sisters? It is Daniel here. We are back here again today. Alhamdulillah. Today we have round 2 of Bassem Youssef and Piers Morgan. I know I'm a little bit late to the party. This was posted almost 2 weeks ago now, but I still haven't seen it, and I want to check it out. I watched the first episode, the first round, and it was very enjoyable to watch. So inshallah, we're going to find some gems here. The whole interview is almost 2 hours, so obviously I'm not going to watch the whole thing. We'll skip around. I'll kind of drive it and see if we can find any gems here. Let's see. Let's get right into it.
Well, Bassem,
Piers,
it's good to see you.
it's good to see you too.
Last time, obviously, we did it remotely.
Yes.
You were here. I was in London, and you complained that it was an unfair situation. You couldn't see me. Your earpiece kept falling out.
Yes.
So I thought, okay, fair enough. I hear you. I got on a plane. I flew 6,500 miles. And not only that, we're doing it in somewhere that is very familiar to you. It's the Comedy Store in Los Angeles, where you performed many times as a stand-up. So I've done my bit.
You did. But actually, this is not the first time we meet in person.
No, we did originally
We did.
in London last year.
And I know that many people are watching this for the first time. I would know this, but like I would really love to tell the story of that moment, because I was having a tour in the UK and Europe, and I was doing my English stand-up. And one of my advertising promotion plan was to come on your show. So my agent called me, it's like, Bassem, you're going to be on Piers Morgan. I said, damn. It's like, what's wrong? It's like, well, Piers Morgan blocked me on Twitter.
I did.
And he said, like, what did you do? I said, well, during January 6th, the insurrection, you tweeted something about it. And I was so angry at what's happening. And I remember you having you and Donald Trump in a picture. And I said the guy who had Donald Trump with him, whatever. and then I used like very harsh words. And of course, you blocked me. And then I said, like, does he know? I don't know. Does he know? I don't know. Does he know? I don't know. So I walked into the studio. And the moment I was like being seated and they're preparing before we go on air, and you say, oh, hi, Bassem. It seems that you have more followers than me, but it seems that I blocked you. Why? And I told you. And then we said the story on air. And it was funny.
All right, let's get into we're just going to skip 9 minutes in. Here we go. It's going to be a different vibe, I think.
And the worst part about it is that like you're trying to do comedy in very controversial climate about very controversial issues. So you'll never satisfy people. And the problem is that people have these expectations. Oh, if you are successful in this, you must be successful at solving this. And when things are not solved, because politics, as you know, very difficult to solve, that expectation, this love turns into hate. And this is one of many reasons that like I had to leave, and I came here eventually.
Well, let's just take people through what happened, because they probably don't know, a lot of people. So during the presidency of Mohamed Morsi, who was a democratically elected...
I'm going to skip forward even more.
Thank you. Thank you very much for me.
Well, I'm the one who bought it, but it's okay.
Obviously, you started the last interview with, I would argue, savagely dark humor involving your wife. How you've been trying to kill her, and she was using your kids as human shields and stuff. And I'll be honest with you.
And I'm still trying to. But you know what? When I failed, you know what I did? I went out to the house and I just like randomly slapped other neighbors.
It's interesting.
By mistake.
Now this time I'm ready for you, okay? This time I'm ready for the humor.
Oh, you're ready, okay.
No, but it's interesting because last time I was very taken aback. And I remember thinking, as you were doing this right off the top, I remember feeling very uncomfortable, unusually uncomfortable, and thinking I didn't know how to react to that. I didn't know whether I was supposed to laugh or be silent, and I sort of ended up sort of slightly grimacing, half laugh and listening. And then I realized it was very powerful what you were doing. It was satirical, but it was savagely satirical and extremely effective. And that's
genius.
why I think the interview did so well. But I'm not going to pretend that I found it easy to listen to it or to react to it, because I didn't.
You know why? Because all I did was just take the talking points that's been in the media, not just for after October 7th, all through the conflict. It's always like, we need to kill it. All right. You need to kill 5? No, kill 10. You need to kill some? No, kill all. This is what satire does. It take reality, flip it on its head, exaggerated, and then you can see how sometimes very uncomfortable and even sometimes stupid that sounds. Because I was just reacting to whatever the media is telling me. It's like, oh yeah, okay, let's do it. There's no pushback. So suddenly, the person who's proposing the most extreme measures is like, oh, we'll take it, oh no, that's too much. So that was like a very simple technique. I just took the talking point and just exaggerated.
It was devastatingly effective, I thought.
Yeah.
First, before we go any further, how is your wife's family? Because she is half Palestinian.
Yeah.
Are they okay?
They're good. They're good. They are safe for now.
Yeah.
And as like that last week, there was no internet, as you have.
Yes.
You know, I saw you tweet at the IDF. It's like, how can they know?
You know how many views that tweet's had? Nearly 40 million.
Yeah.
Me just saying, how are they going to see this message if you've cut the internet off?
Yeah. I'm wondering if the IDF's like, why aren't the Palestinians liking my tweet? Because they don't see it.
Right. No, but I thought that was a perfectly correct assessment of it.
Yeah.
But the reaction to that tweet I did was enormous, as everything is in this thing. And I had a lot of people say, finally, Piers, you get it, right? Finally, you get it. And I wanted to say, listen, I'm trying to reach a place where I get this, but it's an incredibly complicated issue for someone who is not Arabic or Jewish to poke their head into.
Okay.
And I've had to cover it as a journalist for a long.
Let's go second half.
The peace treaty, the one that Isaac Rabin and got the Nobel Prize for, they did it because of the Intifada. So what is the message that Israel is giving to the Arabs? I will never give you anything with peaceful resolution. You will always have to fight for it.
Do you not think that, for example, I mean, Bill Clinton feels this very strongly, that there was a great deal to be done, and Arafat, just in the end, having indicated the whole time that if we got to this place, there would be a deal, just walked away. That was the closest that everybody came, and that actually, I mean, could Clinton have done any more than he tried to do then?
I am not, again, that's why it's very important to have people who are much more qualified than me to talk about this, but two things I can say about that. Number one, the whole thing about the Oslo Accord, there was a video for Netanyahu who was talking to the settlement offer in 2001, and he was bragging about sabotaging. He was talking to us like, I sabotage. It's like there was going to be no peace. Yeah, you've seen that, right? Yeah. And in that video, if you remember, when he was saying like you have to hit them hard, 2001, no Hamas at the time. They were talking about the Palestinian Authority. We have to hit them, we have to kill them, we have to make them feel the pain. And then one of them says like Bibi, but wouldn't America kind of just like, so what? The American public is easily manipulated. 80% are with us. It is absurd. And as a new American, where I can have the privilege of being retrospectively angry, I said like, this guy is mocking the government and the people who have been with him all the time. It's like, oh, they can be easily manipulated. They can do it. And even, by the way, even Isaac Rabin, the one who actually did the peace accord, he was known famously, say the way to actually beat those children is to break their bones, called the broken bones policy. They will like get those kids and break their bones on the pavement. So this has, the whole idea about like Israel wanted peace and Arabs only wanted to fight is a very, very bad representation.
I actually think as it's gone on, the genuine will on both sides for peace has not existed.
No.
I think it's been a deceit to the world.
No, I'm sorry.
And to the relative groups of people on both sides.
The official...
And actually a betrayal of them.
The official stand of the Palestinian Authority, and again, I cannot speak, I mean, it is very difficult to do this. The official stand of the Palestinian Authority is that we are just happy with 22% of the land. Just give us like that. Yes, there are people that dissent, but the thing is, you cannot just say, okay, let's talk about peace. And then you take away my land. Let's talk about peace. And there's a kind of like passive aggressiveness happening. Oh, let's talk about it, but I'm going to build settlements. I'm going to suffocate your cities and your villages.
See, I think that has been incredibly inflammatory.
Yes.
Worsening the situation. I think putting back the chance of peace. I mean, Netanyahu...
It really seems like Piers is kind of coming along. He seems to have at least a little bit changed his mind compared to the first interview with Bassem.
Interviewed Netanyahu earlier this year in the middle of the big social protests in his own country. And I couldn't understand what he thought he was doing, except that it seemed to me political expediency, that he had to get power, again, he had put a bunch of right-wing headbangers into his cabinet who have incredibly bad records, speak in an incredibly incendiary way about Palestinians, for example, and that he did this for power, and then he launched because they were pushing him to do it, a ridiculous assault on the integrity of the Supreme Court, the independence of the Supreme Court. And many Israelis rose up. So Netanyahu has become, to me, a big problem. Right? And the people, all the polling shows that. Israeli people are very unhappy with Netanyahu. I don't think he's ever going to actually want to forge peace. And in fact, I think he was instrumental with Hamas in wanting to keep them in power, because he felt that that would create the split with the Palestinians, with two political groups, and that would be good for Israel.
And it was leaked in a Likud conference in 2019 that he was bragging about giving Hamas money because this is a way that we can keep Palestinians divided, and yet we'll never have one. So this is a guy who was.
But look, we can agree about Netanyahu, I think.
No,
right?
But not just Netanyahu. There's a book.
And I would say most of his cabinet.
There's a book called The Fear of Peace. It's by Moshe Zimmerman. And he's an Israeli historian, and he said, like, the average Israeli citizen does not have a vision of peace. Because for 70 years, this is a country that has been, the war has been going on for, they have been expanding because of war, the military is taking over. So the whole idea of peace is not even there. It's not just Netanyahu. Like you have, I remember you have interviewed Naftali Bennett.
Yes.
And I think you tweeted that that was like a very kind of reasonable take. Yeah.
I don't think I said reasonable. No.
Yeah. But like this Naftali, he went after Queen Rania, and he called up shame on Queen Rania.
No, I didn't say reasonable. I just said this. I did a fire emoji.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just said what he was saying.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to ask you about Queen Rania, and let's ask about since you've raised it, because Queen Rania accused the West of a glaring double standard. She said, "This is the first time in modern history there's such human suffering, and the world is not even calling for a ceasefire. So the silence is deafening, and to many in our region, it makes the Western world complicit." Now, other people said, well, okay, if you feel that strongly, why aren't you taking in any Palestinians? Why is Egypt not taking Palestinians? Why does the Arab world want to constantly attack Israel without actually offering any place to go for the Palestinians? And what do you say to that?
That is exactly what Israel wants. And that is exactly what might actually starts Third War III. This is the war solution. These are Palestinians, these are their lands. And then suddenly take them. Why? So they've been basically kicked around from their homes. And now another country should take them? You see what will happen? Imagine this. Now, and because Israeli official has been talking openly about this. It's like, why don't they just go in Sinai? Why they go? You know what would happen? Those people are going to be pushed in Sinai. And with any population, 2 million people, they are living in refugee camp. What do you think will happen? Unrest, chaos. And then after a few years, the Western media will come with their cameras like, oh, look at those Arabs. Oh, they're killing each other. Oh, Israel is good that they got rid of them. And then they will go to the West Bank. And suddenly those 3.5 million people push into Jordan. The whole idea, why does Jordan take them? Why does Egypt take them? The same question. Europe has 44 countries. Why don't they take Israel? America has 50 states. Why don't they give them Florida? I mean, we seem to complain about Florida the whole time. Why don't they just like give Israel? The whole idea was like, oh, you're Arabs, you're all the same. No. Because what will happen then? So Israel will move into Jordan? It's like, oh, Saudi, why don't you take the Jordanian?
So
this is not a solution. This is not a solution.
Bassem, I hear you. I'm not taking a position either way. Let me ask you directly.
But I want to say something about what Queen Radia said.
Okay.
The whole idea about like the West.
Yeah.
I think that in 3 weeks, Israel morally corrupted the West like no other. I think the West will have a lot of time to recover because for years, the West has been telling us, oh, look, we're liberal. We're all about human rights. All are equal. Adopt our values. And then suddenly, well, you don't want to even to cease. We don't want to even tell Israel to stop. And suddenly we wake up and we found McDonald's are giving free meals to the Israeli because like nothing will make you feel better after killing a bunch of Palestinian kids than a happy meal.
So let me ask you this.
They have a toy.
So this brings me to...
It's just when Bassem is starting to get rowdy, Piers always cuts him off at the best possible moment. That grenade joke was dark.
So, what Israel will say, because they say it to me every time they come on the program, whoever from Ehud Barak to Natalie Bennett, whoever it may be, they say, look, we suffered such a catastrophic terror attack on October the 7th that we have decided we are going to get rid of Hamas. There are 40,000 or so Hamas terrorists in their eyes who need to be got rid of. And I do believe they're terrorists. Only terrorists can commit the kind of act of terrorism we saw. So can we, on that point, can we agree on that? Do you believe Hamas is a terror group?
It is classified by America as I'm not a big fan of Hamas, and they are a militant group. That does like stuff like.
Are they terrorists, do you think?
Yeah.
Okay. So we agree on this. So you have 40,000 of them living in Gaza amongst the civilian population.
Man, this is where I'm still hung up about Hamas. Like, there's all these claims about Hamas, especially October 7th, but the video evidence is not there about killing innocent people. I'm open to it. In fact, me personally, I was like angry. I was upset after October 7th. I thought this militant group, Hamas, identifies themselves as Muslims, and then they're doing things that are clearly un-Islamic. That's not okay. They shouldn't do that. I was angry. I was upset. And I felt confused. I felt like, why is no one talking about this? The Muslims. Why is no one condemning what Hamas is doing in the Muslim world? And then I thought about it more. And I looked and I looked and I looked and I couldn't find any video evidence of these claims. Now, does that mean they didn't do any of the stuff that they're being accused of? No. But I just find it quite poignantly interesting that at a music festival full of young people, there's not a single video from a smartphone or a camera of this supposed massacre that happened. There's like the one, and I can't talk about this too much. There's one that shows, them, I'll say, handling a what seemed to be a male who could have been a combatant. But that was just one case. They're claiming like however many hundreds of people were killed. So this is what I find kind of interesting about the whole thing. Why is there no proof?
If Israel has decided to eliminate a terror group, Hamas, as the world did with ISIS, for example, and I think there are a lot of parallels given the way they behaved on October the 7th to ISIS, how do you do it? How do you do it if you don't do it the way Israel is currently trying to do it?
Exactly not the way that Israel does it, because if you have one of the most advanced military powers in the world, and it takes you 3 weeks, 9,000 Palestinian civilian death, 21,000 injured. As we are talking right now, Israel just bombed Jabalia, which is a known refugee camp. This is not self-defense. Like one of the most questions, like, does Israel have the right to defend itself? This is a no-value question.
Well, I would ask a different point. I would say, not only do they have a right to defend themselves, which every country would after a terror attack, right? But they actually have a duty and responsibility to their population to try and stop that happening again to them.
They've been doing...
And I do understand, and I agree with that.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If it takes you all of that time, all of these civilians...
But Piers just admitted that Netanyahu was funding Hamas. So how does that make any sense? You're saying that he has to protect his civilians from a group that he's funding. How does that? That's illogical.
A few hundred guerrilla fighters.
We don't know how many of the people.
A few thousand.
We don't know.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but Bassem, you don't know, and I don't know.
We don't know, but
right? We don't even know if the casualty numbers are correct because they're all coming from Hamas.
And we
The
should,
health authority-
and we should believe Israel?
No, not necessarily, no. No, I don't believe either side.
But here's my problem with
But
Israel.
here's my point. I don't think we should assume that we know these statistics
Okay.
are correct. I don't think we should assume we know exactly how many children are being killed. We do know a lot have been killed, so the moral argument remains the same. But we don't know how many Hamas terrorists have been killed in the last 3 weeks. We just don't know, do we?
So basically, we're dealing with a very incompetent military force that has been sucking America dry for years, and then they cannot do the job.
But how else do they get rid of Hamas?
Not like that.
How do they do it?
I don't know, but not like that, because they've been trying.
You've got to have another.
They have. First of all, I'm not a military expert. Second of
No, I
all,
understand.
they've been trying the same thing for years. They go in. This is not an eye for an eye anymore. This is an eye, a limb, a life, a house, a neighborhood, a whole population for an eye.
They don't sit. I mean, your friend Ben Shapiro that you particularly despise.
Oh, I love Ben Shapiro. He's very smart.
Oh, yeah, but you've been very critical of him, and that's fair enough, and I'm sure he would be of you. But when I asked him about proportion, he said, I don't care about a proportionate response.
So let's kill civilians as
Hamas did this, so we are going to get rid of Hamas.
But
it's not, in his eyes, it wasn't eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. It was this group of terrorists did this, and we are now going to rid the world of these terrorists.
And this is very important to look at things in context. When you see how Israelis talk inside their community. There was a very famous post by Uriel Eritzol. He is the speechwriter of Netanyahu. He said, what is so horrific about understanding that the whole Palestinian people are our enemies? All of them are enemy combatants. We should kill them, kill their mother, destroy their homes, the homes that they raised those snakes, so no snakes will be raised in this house anymore. And this was reposted by Ali Chaket, which is the Minister of, wait for it, Justice. It's not about Hamas anymore. It is not about Hamas. They can tell you it's about Hamas, but it's not about Hamas. It is basically, they have said it many times, Piers. This is a way to kind of push them into Sinai. This is not about eradicating Hamas. This ship has sailed. I am sorry, but
that makes sense.
Anybody who still believes that this is about Hamas is stupid, because
I don't agree with that.
Really?
No, because I think.
But why there?
I'll tell you why I don't agree.
There are like 100 people.
I think any country that suffered the kind of terror
the
attack
bombing
that Israel suffered, with the kind of death toll that occurred that day, 1,500 plus people, grandmothers, kids, young women being raped, kidnapped, beheaded, it's been reported, and so on. Well, you can raise an eyebrow. I mean, they found a young woman's skull, right? Somehow
what about the babies that were beheaded?
Well, there was a report, and you and I had this discussion on air. You falsely quoted me, and I wanted to clarify that with you in person. You thought I'd said that 40 babies had been beheaded.
So what did you say?
I never said that.
What did you say?
I said it's been reported that 40 babies were killed, some of whom had been beheaded. That's what I said.
Yeah. Totally different. Yeah.
There's a very different. Well, it is different.
Yes.
Do you accept it?
English as a second language, so things
they're different.
Of course, yes.
Between saying 40 babies have been beheaded and 40 babies have been reported to have been killed, including
some where are those
who were beheaded.
Babies?
Well, apparently journalists are being shown utterly horrific footage.
Okay, this comes to a very important question about credibility. Again, I'm not condoning what happened on October 7th, but I'm not a journalist. But as a journalist, wouldn't you take anything that an authority would say with a grain of thought?
Yes.
Especially if this authority have a long history of lying. And I'm just going to give a few examples. 1996, they bombed Kana. It's a refugee camp. They killed 106 people. Despite that they knew it's a refugee camp. They said, oh, maybe it's a one-time off. 2006, they bombed Kana again. 2014, they killed 2 teenagers at a checkpoint. They denied, as usual, but CNN was there. So they said, we have to say it. 2018, they killed a medic, a Palestinian medic, and they fabricated a video showing that it's someone else, that he was a human shield. And then
can
I just finish
yeah,
that?
but I do want to respond.
And then 2010, they killed Ahmed Oraikat, denied it, then said, it's okay, it's us. 2021, they bombed the media office in Hamas. It's not us, but no, I'm sorry. And then, 11th May 2022, Shireen Abu Akleh, a reporter, your colleague, she's Palestinian, American citizen, she was shot in the head. And they provided forensic evidence and even a doctor's video that it was not them, it was Islamic Jihad. How can I expect to believe this regime, especially if the president of Israel comes down with this ridiculous thing? Have you seen that?
No.
He said, okay, This was reported by Sky News, and it was the funniest thing I've seen in so much. This was a Colin Powell moment, but like the cheap edition. Mr. Herzog said, like Isaac Herzog, it's like, we have found evidence on one of the terrorists, a manual to create chemical bombs. And then he showed this, and he showed, and this is, so I just want to say, why would a foot soldier go into enemy with like a manual to chemical bombing? It's like, is that BYOB, bring your own beer, bomb? It's crazy. and what he like have like local ingredients to make, and then this is like, this is a manual of Al-Qaeda, of course, conveniently written Qaeda. And let me read it to you in Arabic because this is funny. So, النشرة الدولية المعنية بالتطوير الذاتي والمعرفي للمجاهدين, which basically say, this is basically like a catalog for self-improvement for mujahideen. I didn't know that they have life coaches. So this, and you know what Sky News said? It's like, we cannot confirm or any of this, but we will show it anyways.
So let me respond.
So this is like this is a lying government.
So let me respond. I do think the Israeli government has lied.
All the time.
Right? I do think they've lied. I'm not going to dispute that. I do think they've been caught lying. I do think they've said things that turned out not to be true. I also think that 2 weeks ago, a hospital was bombed.
Yes.
And it was immediately...
Who do you think did it?
Well, I'm going to tell you what I think. Hamas immediately tell the world it was an Israeli airstrike and that 500 people were killed and that the hospital had been destroyed. And then as the next couple of days go by, the hospital is relatively undamaged. The car park was obliterated. Many fewer people than 500 were killed.
How many people died?
We don't know, because actually we're reliant on the Palestinian Health Authority, which is Hamas in Gaza, for the figures. So we don't know the number, but a lot fewer people died, it would appear, than the
like
500.
100?
We don't know.
50?
Either way, it's appalling, but it may not have been anywhere near as appalling as was first said by Hamas. But here's the point. Most independent studies of what happened have concluded that it was almost certainly a militant stroke terror group inside Gaza, and they fired a rocket which landed in the hospital car park. In other words, it wasn't an Israeli airstrike.
So I have an issue with that, because for 3 days before the attack, the priest and the patriarch of the hospital, because it's called the Baptist hospital, said that they have received multiple warning from Israel that they're going to hit the hospital. And then at the time of the hit of the hospital, one of the top aides of Netanyahu, he tweeted about like, we hit the hospital, and then he deleted it, and then basically like Israel gaslighted the world.
But
It was not us.
But that's why I said most independent.
No, that's not true. New York Times actually like just published something to prove that it was shot from Israel. And the thing is,
No,
okay,
they didn't. Though.
Okay, numbers.
They didn't.
Numbers.
Bassem, that's not true.
Okay.
The New York Times has not reported that it was Israel.
No, they said
They haven't.
okay.
That's not true.
Over 10 years, Hamas launched 35,000 rockets into Israel.
And many failed.
They killed 69 people. And 25% military, only part of them were civilians. So over 10 years of 35,000 rockets, they killed 69 people. But in one strike, you want to tell me that these glorified firecrackers caused that kind of damage?
Yes, it looks like they did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And actually, it wasn't the damage that was reported by Hamas, who wanted people to believe it was an Israeli airstrike. Right. So my point would be, I'm happy to concede that Israel government has lied about stuff over the years. But I'm absolutely certain as well that Hamas lie all the time.
Why are we holding a militant...
I believe, from all I've read, I believe they lied about the hospital.
Why are we holding the militant terrorist group to the same standards as the best
because
and only democracy in the Middle East?
They happen to be the ruling party in Gaza. So they're not just a terror group, they are a political group as well, a political party.
Okay.
Well, they are. So the question again comes to this, and so far you've ducked it, so I want to ask you one more time. We can both agree that the scenes in Gaza right now are horrific, because I do feel that. But I don't know how else Israel can eradicate Hamas than the way that they're currently trying to do it. Do you have an alternative for them?
Well, again, we are locked in the same thing, what can we do now? But we don't look at what was happening over there. The best recruiter for Hamas is Israel. I mean, you have talked a lot about the horrible condition in Gaza.
Yes.
I mean, let's imagine like a little boy called Rami. He lives in Gaza. You know, he have a horrible life, but like, you know, it's not that bad. I know he has a cousin in the West Bank. He's living a good life. He wake up in the morning and he found out that he was kidnapped by 3 settlers. He was burned alive by kerosene and he was forced to drink the kerosene. His name was Muhammad Abu Khudaira. That settlers did that to him in 2016. So, all right, you know what, I'm just gonna leave. I'm gonna find a way to go to Europe. His aunt is a published author and she won a prize in the Frankfurt Book Fair. His name is Adnaya Shtalabi. And now she was cancelled because of what's happened, just because of her a Palestinian. His other aunt in America, his name Bahia Amawi, she is a speech therapist. And this is close to my heart because of my son. And she was fired because she did not want to sign for government contract that said that you cannot join BDS, which I don't understand. Why do people choosing to protest peacefully by not buying goods from a certain country? Why would the United States make that its own issue? So, and this guy, this Rami is being approached by like, join Hamas, join us, let's go kill Israel. No, I don't want to kill. I'm going to live in Gaza. It's a life, but 97% of water is not good for human consumption. Half of the population are anemic. Even the is not being treated, and it goes into the shores of Israel. It's like, oh, those Palestinians.
Which is horrendous.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
So, and then he wakes up in the morning. He doesn't think about killing Jews the first thing in the morning. He thinks about being there at 5 o'clock at the first 50 people in the line for bread, because if he doesn't, he will miss the food for his family. And he goes back and he finds a message saying that we are going to bomb your house. He comes back, he loses his whole family. Now tell me, what is a proportionate response for that?
I don't know.
You cannot create terrorism and then you.
I don't know.
They have created this.
I don't know is the answer. But Bassem, let me ask you this: Hamas will have known when they perpetrated what they did on October the 7th, what the scale of response was likely to be. How does that help the Palestinian people?
I don't know.
That they are supposed to serve.
I don't know. The wheels are already set in motion.
But it doesn't, does it?
I do not. You know, I feel sometimes that Hamas is with us in the room, that we are bringing Hamas. Who has the power in this equation? Who has the 4th largest and strongest military power? The whole idea about Israel, it's like, oh my God, the Arabs are going to destroy us. Look at the map.
Hang on. Hamas's stated goal is the eradication of Israel and the Jewish people.
Yes.
They make no pretense about it. They've made no attempt, unlike the Nazis who try to cover up their crimes.
Absolutely.
They've made no attempt to try and deny what they brazenly boasted about it.
Yes.
They are proud of what they did. Right? And they will have known, again, the scale of what they did on October the 7th would have prompted this kind of response, which would have led to thousands of innocent Palestinians getting killed. And my question for you...
I wish the 7th of October never happened.
Right, but
every time something happened.
You say Hamas is everywhere. Well, yeah, actually all roads, roads on this particular part of the crisis, and I accept it's been going on for 75 years, this conflict, but all roads in this crisis lead to Hamas and what they did.
And not necessarily. Because all roads goes to the condition that created Hamas. If the Jewish people were expelled from Europe and went to Argentina or South Africa and Uganda and went in and took the land, you would have Hamas in all of these places.
You and I can agree that the conditions Palestinian people have had to endure in Gaza for a very long time are completely unacceptable. I think it's completely unacceptable that Israel has wielded such control over the people of Gaza, working out who can come in and who can go out, turning on and off water and power on a whim, turning off the internet on and off at a whim, all that kind of stuff I can completely agree with. But given that I think we agree Hamas are a terror group...
Okay, let's say...
Let me finish my question. Given that we agree that Hamas is a terror organization who have a publicly stated position of annihilating not just Israel, but Jewish people, and as we saw on October the 7th, they mean it. If you are Israel, what do you do to get rid of those people who have shown the world that's exactly what they will actually do if they get the chance?
You know what I would do? I would give the Palestinians what they deserve. Terrorism is a virus.
Yes.
It's a virus.
I agree.
If a patient with a flu came to you and you're a doctor, how can you treat that patient? How do you treat it as a doctor? How do you do?
Well, you're the doctor.
You give them nutrition, fluids, and rest. so the immunity of the body gets rid of the virus on its own. If I received that patient with the flu and I took a sledgehammer, it's like, why are you not getting better? Do you think that patient will get better? No. You are weakening him. You are making him worse. Israel did not just like weaken the body of Palestinians, making them unable to get rid of hate and radicalism. They have openly bolstered about helping and giving money to the same terrorist organization. So,
I agree. I think Netanyahu is
a very good
complicit
point.
in keeping Hamas in power because it suited him politically.
yes,
And I think you can't get away from that.
yes.
There's no question of that. But there's also no question that the Israeli government, led currently by him, has to stop Hamas from perpetrating another terror attack. And again, it comes down to this question. What do they do to get rid of Hamas if it's not what they're doing?
I don't know. But like as an Israeli citizen listening to this, how come that my prime minister bragging about giving money to the terrorist group that he is using right now to eradicate a whole group of people and yet using them as an excuse? Isn't that weird? This is like
but I can agree with
this
you
is
about
like
that.
Tony Blair
All right, that's enough. That's enough. This interview was different than the first one. I feel like it was more tame, and each side was getting more time to speak. I said towards the beginning, I feel like Piers is kind of starting to get it, but I think he's still held back. You know, and may Allah guide him. May Allah guide him. I think honestly he's just being very careful not to jump in to anything that he doesn't understand. I think, give him the benefit of the doubt. I think he's honestly trying to understand the situation. Maybe he does have a little bit of bias, a little bit. His heart is already, sealed. But hopefully not. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Bassem was much less sarcastic this interview, but still made some very good points, mashallah. Yeah, I myself, I'm also trying to understand the situation more, and it's hard to find unbiased information about this conflict. But undeniable. I open up social media and see just absolutely horrific things. So may Allah make it easy for them and ease their suffering. May Allah have mercy on them. I hope it gets better soon. I can't imagine. But we need to remember Allah and practice patience and try not to fall into despair. I believe that is a great sin. Despair is actually a sin because it's a lack of trust in Allah. So stay strong, brothers and sisters, and may Allah bless you generously for watching this video with me. I apologize I didn't speak much. I was really absorbing everything in the video, or trying to. And inshallah, we will see you all in the next one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.